Like and subscribe to learn arm wrestling together.
So the kickback technique is a technique that has been made famous recently by Devon. So you'll see Devon will often train his pronation, his thumb loop pronation, with both the straps kind of low, more towards his wrist, and with his wrist kicked back a little bit, like this. Okay, now you'll see a lot of guys, when they're doing their pronation training, their thumb loop pronation, they'll tend to have a bit of cup. Both have their advantages and disadvantages, but the reason that people will do their cup is the top strap becomes closer to your, if this is your rotational axis going down through here, by cupping, the top strap comes in line with the rotational axis, and so you're not having to counter that torque with pronation. Instead, it puts it a little bit more onto your arm. So that's generally the way I've been training my thumb loop pronation. I have both straps quite high, so I'm not pushing it back towards my wrist, so it means I can't lift as much weight, but it also puts a little bit more onto my riser. The kickback is the complete opposite. So generally, because you're applying more of a rotational force, you might need to back off the weight a little bit, but it's really making it go on your pronation. So the arm aspect might be easier, especially because it's further back towards your elbow, so your pivot point. So the closer the force is to your pivot point, the easier it is to hold up. Like you might be able to get someone to hang off your arm here, but if they try and hang off your hand, your arm's just going to open. Same kind of aspect here, where the further up it is, the harder. So by pulling it further back, it becomes easier in terms of arm strength, but it is a lot harder in terms of pronation. Now, why would you want to do this? So on the table, you might have seen my other videos about your pronation chain being from your top knuckle down through your wrist in kind of a straight line like that. The further you can get that away from your opponent's fingers, if your opponent's fingers cover your pronation chain, they're probably going to be able to cup you in, or they've got a much larger chance to. So if you have practiced the kickback technique, by kind of supinating, you get, especially this top knuckle, kind of away from your opponent's index finger. So then you can, so if I'm here, if I'm just straight, he can get fairly close to my index knuckle, right? And so he's more likely to be able to cut it off with his cup. If I kick back and then rise through this top knuckle, it's easier to get outside with riser pressure. And Devon's been training his riser a lot, so I think that's why he really favors the kickback compared to other forms of thumb loop pronation. So again, just neutrally, he can get quite close to my top knuckle to cut it off, but as soon as I kind of kick back, increase the distance to that top knuckle, I can then rise up and out of his cup. So yeah, different strokes for different folks. I'd recommend training with a bunch of variations. Figure out what works for you, and yeah, never stop learning arm wrestling.
Learn arm wrestling and get stronger together.